Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Saturday, and I'm sneaking in a little bit of work here. I usually don't work on, well, sadly, I frequently do work a bit on Saturday. I probably should devote the entire day to a day of rest, but half of Saturday ends up being a day of rest, and then most of Sunday, pretty much all of Sunday, ends up being a day of rest, although there's, all that going to church services and everything that's involved in all that happens. But anyway, so I'm working here on Saturday just for a little bit before I head back home and see to my family, hang out with my wife and kids, do the daddy do's. But I'm up here working. I can't show you what I'm drawing, what I'm working on, because it's material for the upcoming Washington, D.C. mission in March 20th through the 22nd. All abolitionists who are actively involved in the movement and able-bodied and can get there should be there March 20th to the 22nd, Washington, D.C. I'm working on material for that mission, and I usually record my videos while I'm driving, but I'm going to go ahead and record this video while I'm drawing and talk about kind of like what's going on Twitter and Facebook and elsewhere, but it seems to be worse on Twitter. Twitter seems to be the kind of place where the kind of guys who would like put a like crusade, like Pepe the Crusader, or like they'd like name themselves after like the swords used in Lord of the Rings, or like famous war generals of times past for like European nations and stuff. Like Twitter's just running amok with all these sort of like religious nationalists that, I mean, I think they're imperialist of their culture, their form of culture. And I'm not saying there's nothing or everything wrong with that, but Twitter's just filled with people who their primary cause, just like my primary cause, is loving the Lord God with all my heart, soul, and mind, love my neighbor as myself, and seeking to do what he says, and just studying the Word of God. It becomes very clear that he wants us to do justice, love mercy, walk humbly and faithfully with his commands, and keep a great commission to obey the gospel and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey all that he has commanded. It's very clear that Christ says that the people who know him hear his voice and his commands and keep them, and his commands are simple, and they can be summed up with loving your neighbor as yourself and loving God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Every abortion is a sacrilegious, murderous attack on God. It is carried out on a blessing of God, who is being knit together in the womb by God for the purpose of his glory. And every child aborted is made in the image of God and is my neighbor. And so I've got the desire to apply the golden rule and do for them as I would want done for me. And I also have the repetitive commands of all the prophets of my Lord saying, establish justice for the fatherless, to the point where if you're not establishing justice for the fatherless, God doesn't even accept our worship, our sacrifices, our solemn assemblies, our prayer. He doesn't even hear our prayers or answer them. And so I've got that primary cause of seeking to establish justice for the fatherless. And everyone knows and would think, this is my monomania. Like I am kind of sold out to abolishing abortion, that's my, kind of my fanaticism, if you will. But there are a bunch of other fanatics on Twitter, and they have their primary cause, and I believe it is, despite what they call it, I believe it's sort of empire. I think they're building up their kingdom. They may think it's Christian, they may think it's just Western or white, or all the different things that they want it to be. I'm not calling them racist. I'm just saying, like, Twitter's filled with all these people who like the most important thing for them is nationalism. And nationalism, like, you know, whenever they say things like we are back and they attach it to something, you look at the thing and it's like the spread of their kingdom, their empire. And part of their kingdom and their empire may be like, oh, abortion's bad, but it's not like establishing justice for the fatherless. In fact, spread their kingdom and their empire, and that's most important. And if the only way to achieve the growth of their nation, their nationalism, is to turn a blind eye to child sacrifice or allow child sacrifice, or to support their leader who says, you know, they will not support a federal abolition act. They will actually support nationalism and the growth and spread of sort of America first and that sort of thing, over and above doing the things that all the prophets of God said to do, establish justice for the fatherless. And Twitter's filled with these people, and, you know, they say good things, they say bad things, but they really hate abolitionists, because abolitionists say things like, listen, you can't make America great again without establishing justice for the preborn fatherless. You can't, scripturally speaking, turn a blind eye to child sacrifice and expect the blessings of God. If you turn a blind eye to child sacrifice, you can expect the cursings of God. And so they hate abolitionists. And so it can be a kind of discouraging place, Twitter. You know, you get on there and, you know, if you kind of travel around and look at different things, people tag you on stuff, but, you know, I don't care so much about tags and stuff. I don't have like a big Twitter platform or something. I don't have like lots of followers or some friends on there, but I'll get tagged in some things, and man, these people, like, they really hate abolitionists, and they really hate me, and they really hate Ben Zysov. You might say, no, they don't hate you. They hate what you're standing for. Well, yes, okay, they hate what we're standing for. They hate what we're calling for. And, you know, they hate guys like Ben Zysloft and, you know, different abolitionists that have big platforms and promote things. They hate Abolitionists Rising. They may like some abolitionist groups more than other abolitionists, or some abolitionist leaders more than other, because those other abolitionist leaders may sort of like have one foot in the nationalism thing and one foot in the established justice for fatherless thing, and they know how to properly navigate in such a way that everyone's happy and everyone speaks well of them on both sides of this controversy. But I don't necessarily know that. I think I would know how to navigate that way, but I choose not to. I choose to, you know, be focused on my thing, right? Because I think that, ironically enough, my thing is the key to their thing. Like, the thing to making a great world and golden age and the best thing for everybody is, you know, pleasing and honoring God and bringing his blessings upon our nation. Like, God bless America. I think doing this thing, this abolitionist thing, is what will bring the blessings of God. So ironically, but anyway, so back to it. It's really discouraging, but I'm not discouraged. I mean, obviously I'm still here working, but it's discouraging in the sense of it's sad. It is incredibly sad, because a lot of these people, some of them are former abolitionists, and all of them would basically be like, I am an abolitionist, I'm just not your kind of abolitionist, which is a common thing. Like, I've studied the 19th century, a very common thing, which, you know, and this is what inspired this video. As I was thinking, man, these people hate me. I was like scrolling through somebody's post, and it was like this document. It was like this meme. It's kind of, I think memes are supposed to look stupid so they travel well. It's a stupid looking meme. And it had like, it was like an apology form, like, hey, you can apologize to Donald Trump because you didn't support him and you criticized him, and now look at all the good things he's doing. And I look at that and I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, these people think Donald Trump's doing good. Like, they are so deluded. They're so focused on their nationalism and their American first stuff that they fall for, like, Donald Trump defunding like saying that federal dollars can't go to abortion, which has been the case since 1977, and a well-worn political ploy to like sort of get abolitionists or people like abolitionists to stop demanding something really be done about abortion. Do something like defund Planned Parenthood, or sign the Hyde Amendment again. This sort of thing has been done over the years, over and over and over again, in order to appease people and make them think, oh, look, good things are being done by my hero, by my leader. And so these people, with their like, their crusader name, like most of them are anonymous, some of them they'll use their names, but a lot of them are anonymous. You're kind of like, I don't know if these people, like, they're the kind of people that on Twitter they would like name themselves after like Aragorn's sword, but they would never even be caught dead talking about any of their beliefs out in public. Like they're like scared little people. But Twitter affords them a place to be bold. And I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, they're like hundreds of hours, be talking to thousands of people on the streets of all kinds about all sorts of things. And I don't think any of them, if they knew who they were attacking, would attack me for not being like bold, at least about the things the thing that I'm focused on. But anyway, I'm looking at them and their shares, and they've got all these comments, and it's like, a lot of them, like, you'll see their comments and they'll be like, F you, Russell, you're a retard. And, I'll go, man, it's weird how many of these non-Christians are like hardcore Trump pro-lifers. And then I'll click on their like profiles, and I'll see that they're like Reformed Baptists and Christians, and like their pinned posts from 2 years ago are like kind of solid stuff that I really agree with. And I'm like, oh man, these people are like vile and mean, and they got like unfruitful words flowing from their mouths. Anyway, so I look at them and I'm like, man, these people are really, really hateful. It's okay, it's Twitter, it's their right. I'm not saying censor them. I'm just saying, like, golly, these people are like, it's like they don't ever make like sophisticated arguments, and if they do make arguments, they're like really weak. And so I understand why they sort of default to like name calling and just being jerks. Generally speaking, that's whenever someone lacks confidence in what they're saying and knows like secretly deep down inside that what they're saying is erroneous in some way, they'll project and they'll act out, and they'll just say, you're being stupid and stuff like that, instead of formulating actual. You can see it from the blue-haired people, and you can see it from the crusade people. Like New Christendom is not at all very Christian, And so anyway, what inspired this video was, I always thought, reading the history of the 19th century and looking at the way that the American people treated a guy like William Lloyd Garrison, who was kind of the clarion call for immediate abolition. He was the agitator. There were many abolitionists, many agitators, but he was kind of like the one that kind of really ignited it, set people on fire in the United States of America. And some people would think that's me now, but I would say, well, like, I may be playing that Garrison role, but I always thought, man, I will never be as hated as William Lloyd Garrison was. Like, I mean, William Lloyd Garrison, when Abraham Lincoln was running for president, was criticizing Abraham Lincoln. And people didn't understand it, and they hated him, and they just said all manner of evil things about him, from blog to blog, town to town, or from newspaper to newspaper. And Matthew 23. Anyway, I always looked at that and thought, man, this guy is supremely hated. And my optimism about the future and thinking that, we're further along than those people were back then, I was like, man, I'll do kind of like what Garrison did. in my day and age, every age has its evils, every age has its abolitionists. I'll play that figure, and I was really thankful. I was like, but I'll never be as hated as William Lloyd Garrison is. But I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at Twitter, and I'm like, holy smokes. I think that these people think about me what their forebears thought about Garrison and the Garrisonians, the abolitionists, the immediate abolitionists. And so thinking about all that and looking at all these like stupid, hate-filled, like weak sauce posts. I mean, they're like, some of them you're like, start to like make a response and like explain that, wait, all this good stuff that Trump is being praised for is all not abolitionism. And he's still on record of saying he will veto a total ban on abortion in the United States of America. He's still on record saying that even states that want to criminalize abortion within their borders, states should be opposed and they shouldn't do that. Like, that's what we want. And he goes and he like defunds or agrees with the age-old Hyde Amendment of not having federal dollars go to abortion. Comes into office after the Biden administration takes down some kind of abortion website. And all these, like, I'm sorry, like, real dumb people. I don't mean calling them dumb because that's my argument. I'm calling them dumb because they're dumb. They don't seem to be aware that when we're saying we want abolition and Trump's saying I oppose abolition, and then Trump defunds Planned Parenthood, and then they say, oh, you better apologize to Trump. And I'm like, stay in your basement. Because if you actually had to argue this stuff, like if I've run into one of these guys once out in public, and he was just like a shell of a shell of a shell of probably what he is on Twitter. And he lacked confidence. He couldn't formulate arguments. And he just kind of stood there, almost kind of like in awe that I was able to talk about everything. It's just sad. It's depressing because a lot of these people are would-be abolitionists who are so caught up in the idolatry of their cause that they can't see the biblical strength and beauty of ours, and that achieving ours, abolishing abortion, is the key to theirs, making America great. So wanted to reflect on that, and I wanted to draw at the same time. But because I talk so much and move my hands when I talk, it's cutting into my drawing. So I'm going to cut this video off there and just say, hey, you know what? All you crusaders, I see your comments, and I don't care. I mean, I do care. Let me reverse that. I feel bad for you. I wish that you were not deluding yourselves, but I want you to know that your mean tweets don't have any effect on me. So, and historically speaking, they're just going to be seen exactly the same way that like mean things said about Harriet Tubman or William Lloyd Garrison or Frederick Douglass or Elijah Lovejoy. Like, I am thankful that like people like you used to kill people like me, you know, like I'm glad you're not doing that. Though the way that some of you speak, the vitriol and the hate, if you get your empire and you get to put on your real crusade costumes and not just your Twitter profile, you know, coat of arms or whatever that is. Like, when you get your real laser eyes, you might actually do damage to us. The Word of God is very clear that persecution does come against those who are following Christ. And what people don't realize is that almost all instances of the persecution recorded in the Bible of the prophets and of the apostles comes from other religious people who are focused more on their nation and building it up and stopping any threats to it than they are on following Christ. Think about that and get back to my drawing.